Hi, I'm Bill Bonstetter with TTI. In 1979, I started doing research using our behavior. As I compiled the research and tried to give talks or write papers, it was almost impossible to demonstrate where the people were coming from using the graph alone. So in the early 90s, I started working with a concept to develop a wheel which would allow me to better demonstrate groups of people, teams of people, or winners in any given occupation. So today I'm going to give you a little talk on the history and the development of TTI's wheel. By looking at the wheel, you can see we have a number of rings around the wheel. I first want to start off by talking about the outer ring. On the outer ring, we have four key positions. They are D, or conductor, and on this particular position, where it is in the color red, we only have one of the dimensions above the midline, and that is the D factor. As we go down, we see the I by the promoter, and at this point, we only see one factor above the midline, and that is the I factor. Moving over to the green area, we see the S. Again, only one factor above the line, and up to the C analyzer, we see only one factor above the line, and that is the C factor. So we have four major plotting points out on the outside of our particular wheel, and then we have the average of those in between to come up with our 8 specific dimensions. I mentioned that we had 60 different plot points on the wheel. I'd like to call your attention to the D area, the conductor, the red area, and you'll notice we have numbered that number 1. Going down to persuader is 2, promoter 3, relator 4, supporter 5, coordinator 6, analyzer 7, and implementer 8. The reason for numbering these particular segments on the wheel is for research purposes only and making it easy to plot people or a group of people on the wheel. Now I want to discuss the next ring on our wheel. We're going to start with number 9. If we look at number 9 and we look at the graph, we can see that the D is the highest point, the I and the S are below the line, and the C is above the line but fairly close to the D in intensity. That is in the implementer segment. But now let's go look at 10, and we'll start to see a little concept here. The D is staying about the same, and the C is lowering. As we move away from the C is going down and the D is staying about the same. Then as we look at 11, the C drops below the midline, and now we're starting to increase the I while still maintaining the low S. And then on 12, you'll see that the D is slightly above the I. The S and C are about equal. And then when we get to 13, all of a sudden the I is highest with the D. On this complete ring, we only have 2 plot points above the midline and 2 plot points below the line. The key here is that we're dealing with those 2 dimensions, and as we go down and around the wheel, you will see certain plot points both rising or lowering. Looking at the third ring, this looks specifically at number 25. We have the D, I, and C above the line and the S below the line. On this ring, we always have 3 plot points above the line and 1 below the line. Now we're getting the flexibility coming in because on number 25, that person is using both or all 3. The D, the I, and the C are all a part of the report, this person as well as the low S. Moving from 25 to 26, again, you will start seeing that we are raising and lowering the various plot points. Again, on this ring, we will always have 3 plot points above the midline and giving the most accurate information based on the intensity of all 4 factors. Looking at the 4th ring, we see, again, different graphs. Looking at number 41, we have the D, the S, and the C above the line, and the I is the lowest point. We will continue around the ring, raising and lowering these dimensions depending on how they pull from each other and across the ring. We need to look at the D and the S factor across from each other, and as we look at these factors, we can see as we move towards a factor, that factor goes up. As we move away from a factor, that factor goes down. Again, very flexible people that are plotted in this particular ring. The center ring is a very special ring, and we're pulling from across the wheel. Let's look at number 57. We have the D highest and the S above the line with that. The D says, let's do it now. And the S says, well, maybe we shouldn't move quite that fast. Maybe we should think it over. So we have a little bit of a me conflict from D's liking to do things quickly and be decisive, and the S wanting to be logical, think it through before taking action. But as we mentioned, the outside of the wheel, when I talk about a high D and they're plotted on the extreme outside of the wheel, everything we say about a D is going to be more accurate. As we move towards the center of the wheel, the information becomes interacted with other dimensions, and it's not quite as specific. People actually become a little bit more flexible than they are when they're plotted on the outer dimensions of the wheel. I hope this helps you understand how and why the Success Insights wheel was developed.